I'd like to welcome the audience to the August 21st, 2018 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I'd like everyone to please stand while Coach Williams says the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we come thanking thee for allowing us another blessed day. We ask our presence in this meeting tonight. We pray for this board. We pray for the staff. We ask a special blessing for those who come seeking our help. We just pray let the Holy Spirit guide us and lead us that we might do that which is respectful in your sight. This we offer our day in our prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Coach. Ms. Christie, would you please call the roll?
Chair Art Little.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Armentor.
Here.
Ms. Latricia Cobb is out of town. She's absent. Ms. Julia Dickerson. Ms. Sharon Galicia. Here. Ms. Janelle Hyatt. Mr. Kyle Link.
She was here just a while ago.
Mr. Jake Forshea is absent. Mr. Gary Navarre.
Here.
Mr. Kirk Smith.
Here.
And Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. This is an 11-member board. It will take the majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The chair will refrain from voting unless that vote might affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicants will need to fill out a blue card request to appear form, which is located in the back of the meeting room. This form must be given to the staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. As required by the board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I would recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a large group waiting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speakers request forms are submitted, the time allotted for individual speakers will be limited based on the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend or the board may vote to extend the time allotted for speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The variances and exceptions requests are final here tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police juror for final action on August the 23rd, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the websites at www.cppj.net.channel 5. Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Benton, DeQuincy, and Gillis, and Channel 99 in Corliss and Grand Lake. I'd like for everyone to please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Agenda item number 5, take appropriate action to approve the minutes of the June 19th, 2018 and the July 17th, 2018 Planning and Zoning meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I got a motion by Coach Williams. Second by Mr. Link. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Agenda item number 6, take appropriate action on EX 0618-0027, a request by Brandon Hewitt for an exception to allow residential development manufactured home at 4100 Corliss Drive in Ward 4. Ms. Jennifer?
Did you want to entertain a motion?
At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Galicia
Second.
and a second by Coach. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses 8 acres of single-family residential zone land. The applicants have a family member with a special needs child. The family member and child are currently living in a manufactured home in Moss Bluff. They would like to move their home on the applicant's property to enable the applicants to assist with the special needs child as needed. This request was deferred from last month due to the need for a variance to allow a second dwelling on one lot. The next item on the agenda will address the variance request. We have not received any written opposition to this request. Because a similar request in the immediate area was granted by the board and there is evidence of a hardship, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments, and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to the utilities being connected.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? If not, we do have one person, well, I've got it. Neil Ryder is marked for and against in general comments. If you would, state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Neil Ryder, and I live behind Mr. Hewitt at 4184 Carlos Drive. And I checked all of those above because I've talked to Mr. Hewitt several times, and I am all for him helping out a family member. I don't want to stand in anyone's way if they're trying to help out a family member, especially if they have a special needs child. But across the street from our properties, all of us have 8 to 25 acres across the street from a row of mobile homes. And the reason we built in the back of these properties is because we didn't want mobile homes on our side of the street. So this variance is what's creating, we don't want it to create a floodgate of every single member on that side of the street asking for the same variance for no reason at all. When I spoke to Mr. Hewitt, and I've spoke to him several times about it, he told me that this was a temporary issue, that the special needs child was going to high school, and that in 4 years from now that trailer would be moved. And I told him that I would prefer if the trailer was behind his house, and I believe the board recommended that it be behind his house, but they want it in front of his house, and I'm not gonna oppose that. But he said it was temporary, and I came here tonight to find out what temporary meant to him, because I know what it means to me. So I'm not sure if there's anything in the variance or the exception for temporary housing.
Mr. Crane, can you?
Well, there's not a condition that's limiting it, no, sir.
Okay.
So he assured me that it would be temporary, and that the variance had that in it. And I didn't know if what I was reading on the sign, what I could barely read on the sign, and what the variance read, I didn't know if it had any temporary stipulations at all. So if that be the case, I would prefer he not do it unless the police jury stipulated that it would be temporary. And that's all I have to say.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments?
Might want to ask for the applicant to come back.
Is the applicant present on this application? Do you have any comments? Can you come and Yes, ma'am, please. Yes, if you would, just state your name and address, please.
My name's Candace Fontenot. My address is 2208 North Perkins Ferry, Lot 27, Lake Charles, 70611. In my hardship letter, I did state that once my son graduated from school, I would explore my options whether to build something right there, because I know the whole issue is the manufactured home, or to move elsewhere. I didn't put a certain time limit on it because I am a newly single mother, and I just didn't want to have a certain number on it. I said I would start exploring my options once he graduated from high school.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any of the board members have any questions or comments? We have another blue card that was turned in, James Boudreau. If you would state your name and address, please.
My name is James Boudreau. I live at 4008 Carlos Drive, and Mr. Neal and I, he lives right behind me. We've talked about this, and Lee Richard also, he lives just north of me. And basically, Neal touched on everything that I wanted to say. I just didn't know I was supposed to bring the blue card up here. What is temporary? And I have 10 acres there. Mr. Neal has a nice place back there. I mean, it's not a mansion, but it's I work my butt off for it, and I don't want, there's numerous tracts of land in there that can very easily be developed as a trailer park that's right across the street. I don't want that. I know if you guys lived, it was right there, you wouldn't want it either. I mean, what is a temporary development? He come and talked to me, told me the same thing. It was gonna be temporary, nothing permanent, but I don't see that in here, so.
No, sir, not at that time. It wasn't in the recommendations. Really
Yeah,
wasn't.
and I'm same way with Mr. Neal, and I'm gonna speak for Lee. He was supposed to be here, but he couldn't be here today. He said the same thing. I'm not opposed to them helping, not at all. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I don't want, if you allow one, then how you gonna stop the rest of it? If he wanted to make a trailer park out of that 10 acres right there, or 8 acres, whatever he has. I mean, if we allow one to be a permanent address, then, or is the second and the third and the fourth and continuing, then that's right. I live on the north side, and there's just a fence that borders us. And that's my concerns.
Sure, that's understandable. I do know that we have in the past had some applicants to do stuff on the west side of that road in
Exactly.
regards to trailer parks and RVs that have not passed for whatever the reason may be. But, I mean,
Yes, sir.
as far as temporary, I don't know what, I'm like you, I don't know what temporary is.
What is that, just like me and Mr. Neal had talked about, what does that definition mean to them? I know, Lee, his neighbor, father-in-law, they granted him a 6-month term on a trailer house, built his house, and then they moved it. The neighbor right down the road south of us right there, they did the same thing. It was a temporary deal. They allowed it for, I think this one was like 6 or 8 months, and then they had to move it. So what is that definition? That's my concerns.
I don't think we have that definition in our rules, to be honest with you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get some legal advice.
First, are we finished with the speaker? We can have
Do
this.
you have anything else?
No,
Any
sir.
comment?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
I
Yes,
think-
sir, we are.
Thank you.
I think the question is, can we apply a definition to temporary? Like the young lady stated that she's a single mother, and when her son graduates from high school, now if he's in the 9th grade now, that means he should graduate in what, 4 years? So would we be in line, this board, to say, well, we could put a stipulation on it, after 4 years, if he hasn't graduated, that trailer had to be moved?
Sure.
You can, certainly. Right now, there are no conditions regarding timing. If you want to, somebody wants to make a motion to add another condition or stipulation, we can see if that passes and we'll consider it. The problem we always have with those things is enforcement. Sometimes we put conditions like that are hard to enforce, but you are within your rights if you, as this
Okay.
board, want to put that as a stipulation.
Thank you very much.
Would I be in line to say give them, by making a motion, 5 years?
If you wish to, you can do that, Coach.
So.
We have a motion on the floor by Coach Williams to put a stipulation of 5 years as the temporary time frame on the trailer.
And will that motion get a second?
And I need a second.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Navarre. It's open for discussion.
Correct. And Mr. Little, since the applicant did not have a chance to respond to that, I would suggest the applicant be recalled.
Would the applicant like to come back up and say any words or comment? It's your choice.
I don't know if they heard you.
Would the applicant like to come back up? Okay, thank you.
Well, I've got some questions for her.
Can I ask you to come back up to the podium? We do have some questions from the board members, please.
You'll be all right.
Made me do it anyway.
You'll be okay.
This is your son?
Yes, sir.
How old is he?
He's 14.
14?
Yes, sir.
So 5 years, he'd be 19.
Yes, sir.
Would you have a problem putting a 5-year maximum on it?
I mean, that's fine. It's kind of scary to just say 5 years you're going, and.
Right, but you see, these people got a lot of money invested in there, and, we're trying to help you. We don't want to hurt
I know,
them
I
either.
understand that. I understand their point too, and that it's a 2-year-old trailer. I would fence in it if they would like me to. It's not that I'm asking for it to be permanent. 5 years kind of makes me nervous.
Kind of tight.
Yeah. And I mean, I work right down the road. So either way, I would either build there or move somewhere in Corliss. But, I mean, it's your decision.
Mr. Crane?
I was gonna say, if the motion passes for 5 years, I mean, she could always come back to this board and request an extension, and she would have to come back to the board, though. I mean, we couldn't do it administratively.
Okay, right, okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Ormsted?
Okay, Ms. Armentor.
Ormentor, excuse me.
I have an autistic nephew, and he went to high school till he was 21 years old.
See, that was my
That's-
other issue, too. I
Right,
can't guarantee
and-
that he will be out in 4 years,
Right.
This is his first time going to high school, and it's huge.
And so he stayed until he was 21, so I have a real issue with the 5-year thing, because that just puts him, he's not finished yet. He still could be a couple more years in public school system.
Correct.
And it should be at least 1 year after the public school system. So now you're talking 7 years, now you're up to 8 years, I feel. Is
Yeah.
where if you're gonna put a time restraint on it, let's put it to where the end of the child's school career is my thing. And so it should be, I'd like to amend the motion to 8 years if we're gonna put a time restraint.
Well, right now, we've got a motion. We've got a motion to amend. We have to take action on that motion first. So if we're finished with discussion on that, we need to vote on that motion to amend to add that stipulation of 5 years. If that passes or fails, then we can amend again. But right now, we have to take action on the motion to amend.
With a 5-year
Correct.
extension.
Yes.
Any other discussions from the board members? Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Roll call.
Ms. Christie, can we have a roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir, one moment,
And
please.
again, Mr. Chairman, this is only to add the stipulation of a 5-year
Correct.
time limit.
So if it fails,
Then we can come back and
Come
vote.
up with the amendment.
vote on a different amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it passes, you can make an amendment to that.
Sorry?
Okay.
If the
Didn't know which way to
motion,
go here.
if the motion to, for
You're
the
op-
5 years, if it passes, we can come back and change that?
No.
Rescind? Okay.
Sure,
Motion to
yeah,
five
you
has
can,
to
you
be
can
done
amend
right away.
again.
Do any other action.
But right now, all we're taking
Right.
action on is the motion to
Is the
amend to
motion
add the
to-
stipulation of 5 years.
Correct, okay.
Okay. Mr. Armentor,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Link,
No.
Mr. Navarre?
No.
Ms. Felicia?
No.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Ms. Hyatt?
No.
All against.
Motion
To
for
amend.
the temporary extension of 5 years fails.
Now,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, we do it for, well, 8 years.
We're just looking for a second.
No, we gotta make a motion now, we done eliminated that motion.
Need a motion and a second.
Motion and
Motion and
second.
We- 8 years.
8 years.
I'd like to make a motion, we allow this trailer to be there for 8 years, at the end of 8 years, it has to be moved.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Navarre. We have a motion by Mr. Navarre and a second by Coach Williams to put an 8-year stipulation on temporary assignment.
Any discussion on that one?
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion? Ms. Christie, can we ask you to do another roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Roll call, please.
Sure.
Mr. Armentar?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes.
Ms. Felicia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
7-4.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Christie.
And now we need to take action on the main motion now as amended.
The main motion is to a request by Brandon Hewitt for an exception to allow residential development manufactured home at the 44,100 Carlos Drive in Ward 4. Any other discussion by the board members?
With stipulations and the amendment, right?
Correct.
Right, with the stipulations that's in the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 7, take appropriate action on VAR 08180047, a request by Brandon Hewitt for a variance to allow an additional dwelling on one lot at 4100 Carlos Drive in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Navarre,
Second.
and a second by Coach Williams. Ms. Wallace?
This property is the same property you discussed in the previous item. The property has only 99 feet of road frontage, and to have 2 dwellings on one lot, the property must have a minimum of 200 feet of road frontage. At this time, the applicant has a buy-sell agreement to purchase additional land and frontage. However, the purchase is not yet complete, so to move forward, a variance needs to be approved by the board. And because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to that request? Do we have a blue card, Mr. Neil Ryder? Do you have any other comments you would like to make?
No, sir.
And Mr. James Boudreau? Thank you very much. The board members have any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 8, take appropriate actions on VAR 07180046, a request by LMP Properties LLC for a variance to increase density requirements, allow 2 units, allow 2 units is what's in the ordinance, and requesting 8 units in the 5,000 block of Jerry Street in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glacier, and a second by Mr. Link. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in South Lake Charles and encompasses 1/3 of an acre of multifamily zone land. In 2016, the board granted a similar request for the same applicant in close vicinity of this request. If approved, the applicant will construct the 8 units within a 2-story building. The exterior of the building will be brick and hardy board. Each unit will have 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. We have not received any written opposition to this request. And because the proposed density is consistent with the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided the director may authorize adjustments. That all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development. And that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? Please state your name and address.
Robin Bissoni, 1010 Lakeland Drive, Lake Charles 70605. I'm representing the applicant, and I'm available if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have one blue card in opposition for general comments. Maria Rougeau. Please state your name and address, please, ma'am.
Marie Rougeau. I live at 5008 Jerry Street. I live next door to where the apartments are being built. I just have a few concerns. So, do I address her?
You can address the board, please.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair, let me just remind everybody that comments are what's needed now, not questions. The questions come
Yes.
from the board, but I just wanted to make that note.
Sure. Any comments are what we're looking for in regards to anything? Any comments you may have more so than questions?
I have questions.
Turn them into a comment.
It's a comment. I don't know how to, I mean, I have a question, I have issues. I mean, he's gonna build those apartments on the side of me, like the drainage system. That's a comment? Make it a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I spoke to him before, Mr. Porch. He told me he was waiting on a permit. And I noticed next door, she's never got her drainage system. Water just comes in when it rains on the side of her house, okay? It doesn't flood on my side of the house now. And she mentioned that he put a little drainage system, she said, but it doesn't cover anything. It still floods, mosquitoes. And also, I guess that's a sewer system, that loud noise I hear next from the neighbor's house. We in between. It's just a loud noise. She said it's a sewer system for the apartments. Now, if he puts one next door to my house, those are my bedrooms on the side, that if he places that sewer system there with all that loud noise. And I also asked him, there's a fire hydrant in front of there, and I know this. They came and turned the fire hydrant on to flush it. My yard was full of water, my sewer system in the back was, I mean, everything was going everywhere, and they had to come and turn it off. We have little ditches, of course, and I noticed that culverts have never been cleaned, never. And I'm asking if he puts his stuff down, are the culverts going to be clean before he puts his culverts all in front of his apartments? Or is it just gonna be a total mess?
I'm not sure. I'm sure if it's an existing culvert, it's gonna remain as is.
It's never been cleaned. Don't y'all clean them out and stuff like that?
Well, from this board, we don't.
Public Works. That's our Public Works Department. And so those, if there's an issue with the ditch not being clean or a culvert, that can be reported to our Public Works Department.
Yes, sir.
The police jury, Public Works, and they'll schedule that to go out there and
Okay.
assess it and then hopefully clean it.
Did you
I
hear
called
that, Mr.
twice.
Zach?
I quit calling. Nobody come. I called twice. Nobody has never come.
And I would, that's what the Public Works is for. This board is here
You know.
just on land issues. But if you would, I mean, you've got some police jurymen. I'm not sure who your juror is in that area, but between your juror and your Public Works people, I would suggest to call them. Yes.
And we'll be glad to help. We can check with our Public Works Department.
Sure.
See if they've got something scheduled.
Scheduled for that.
Okay. All right. I just have these issues because I watched what he did to the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern is for myself also. I'm being boxed
Correct.
in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Do you have any comments in regards to, like, the existing driveway? Will it be changed out during your construction, or is that just falls under the Public Works? Do you have any, in her concerns, do you have any comments?
When the development is proposed for the building permit, we'll meet the guidelines that the parish lays out
Okay.
for us. No questions about that.
That's all we can ask for. Thank you very much. Any comments from the board? Any questions? Ms. Christie, can we have a roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Ms. Felicia,
Yes.
Mr. Link,
Yes.
Mr. Armentrout,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
and Ms. Hyatt.
Yes.
7 for.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion carries. Next agenda item number 9, take appropriate action on EX 07180030, a request by Sandy Lake LLC for an exception to allow a 3-year extension on an existing borrow pit in the 5,000 block of Hecker Road in Ward 8. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Galicia,
Second.
and a second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in the Hecker area and encompasses 230 acres of agricultural zone land. In 2013, the board approved the applicant's request to excavate at this location. At that time, the board stipulated a 5-year time frame for excavation. Since the excavation is not complete, the applicant is requesting an additional time to complete the project. We have not received any written opposition to this request, and because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with section 26.1221F4 of the parish code, that the 2013 permit must be renewed prior to any excavation under this extension request, that a road damage bond in an amount determined by the parish engineer must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to renewal of the development permit, and that utilization of additional parish roads is subject to future bonding requirements in the event parish roads are impacted by heavy truck traffic.
Thank you, ma'am. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? We have no opposition in regards to blue cards. Does the board have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 10, RZO 6180075, a request by Harnoon Properties LLC to rezone from light commercial to recreational vehicle park, to allow recreational vehicle park in the 7600 block of Elliott Road in Ward 3 has been withdrawn by the applicant. Agenda item number 11, take appropriate action on RZ 07180076, a request by East Preon Lake Properties LLC to rezone from light industrial to I-1 to heavy industrial I-2 to allow industrial development concrete crushing facility in the 4500 block of East Preon Lake Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Navarre, seconded by Coach Williams. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located east of Lake Charles and encompasses 2 acres of land. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant plans to bring in a temporary crushing plant to recycle concrete into aggregate material for resale. We have not received any written opposition to this request, and because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the division, provided that the director may authorize adjustments, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations?
No, sir.
Thank you. We have no blue cards or any opposition. Do board members have any questions? Any questions or comments? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 12, take appropriate action on RZ 0718-0077, request by LMP Properties LLC to rezone from mixed residential R2 to light industrial I1 to allow industrial development, a contractor shop, and storage yard at 110 East Abear Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Navarre, seconded by Coach Williams. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located south of Lake Charles and encompasses nearly 2 acres of land. Currently on the property are 2 accessory buildings, which are both used in conjunction with the existing plumbing and audiovisual businesses on the abutting lots. The applicant would like to zone the entirety of the property to light industrial to match the current use. We have not received any written opposition to this request, and because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that unless modifications are required due to technical or engineering considerations and approved by the director, all uses and improvements must be pursuant to and in strict accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws, statutes, ordinances, codes, resolutions, rules, and regulations; that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development; that screening must be installed prior to issuance of any development permits on the west and north property lines of the development in accordance with section 2650 of the parish code; and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations?
Robin Bisoni, 1010 Lakeland Drive, Lake Charles, 70605. Just letting you know I'm here again if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. We have no blue cards or any opposition shown. Does the board members have any questions or concerns? No opposition. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. I just want to take a moment and count. We're not at that particular application yet, agenda item, but we have 11 blue cards in opposition to item number 14, which will be coming up. I would recommend that y'all may want to get a spokesperson because of the fact that you'll be allowed 10 minutes. Between the 14 of you will have 10 minutes to speak overall. So I just wanted to pass that on before we get there. Next agenda item is number 13. Take appropriate action on RZ 0718-0078, a request by TPA Investment RV LLC to amend ordinance number 6182. Stipulation 1, that the development adhere to the site plan, 40 recreational vehicle spaces, to allow revised site plan, 45 recreational vehicles spaces total, at 165 Reeves Road in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Galicia.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Navarre. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in Moss Bluff and encompasses over 3 acres of land. In 2013, the board and the police jury rezoned the land to allow the proposed RV park with 140 spaces. If the current request is approved, the only modification will be to add 5 spaces. We have not received any written opposition to this request, and because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff recommendations?
No, sir.
With no opposition, no blue cards, does the board members have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 14, take appropriate action on RZ 07180079, a request by WSM Development LLC to rezone from single-family residential R1 to manufactured home park R-MRP to allow manufactured home park, 396 spaces, 7300 Tom Hebert Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Navarre and seconded by Mr. Link. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located southeast of Lake Charles and encompasses over 78 acres of land. If approved, the park will include open green spaces and ponds for retention. Near the entrance to the park will be an office and a mail building with both having hardy board exteriors. The park spaces will be rented and the renter will provide his own manufactured home. We have received written opposition to this request and the emails are on your tablets. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to plans in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development or structures to minimize intrusion onto surrounding properties, that screening must be installed prior to any final electrical approvals on the south and west property lines of the development in accordance with section 2650 of the parish code, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Tom Gale. I'm here on behalf of the applicant this afternoon. Ms. Wallace, can I ask a question? Did you say something about who was going to own the manufactured homes? I'm sorry, we couldn't hear from the back.
The residents were gonna own them.
Residents run, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I just
That's
want to
what
make sure
I
that
heard.
was clear. Okay, I apologize, we couldn't hear from the back. The request, of course, is to put in a manufactured mobile home park. It is consistent with what we have in the neighborhood. There are multiple mobile home parks in the neighborhood. So the zoning classification would go from residential into mobile home. It's like we said, it's consistent with what we have in other areas. Matter of fact, we have neighboring properties that are adjoining to it. Right now, there is a approval to put in 216 private individually owned homes. And so from a density population perspective, there's a higher density approval for it right now practically through 216 homes than they would through the manufactured home park. And so as of right to be able to go in and do, we're not talking about something that's a significant move on a density perspective. We've gotten feedback that one of the big concerns now with the mobile home parks is security. And the goal and objective on the developer is to make this as high-end as it can practically be. The neat thing about the design, and if you look at the site plan on it, it's got controlled access. As you're on the far position, you can see the other mobile home parks basically run a dead-end road off the main traffic corridor, and they run back through there. The design of this park is to have controlled access over 2 access points. And so the primary road is going to be Tom Hebert Road, which is on the right side of the image that you're seeing. The driveways will be on the north and the south. There is a 350-foot approximately buffer zone from Tom Hebert Road because the developer and the engineer put the water retention close to the road. So on that first row, full row of manufactured homes that you're going to see, you're going to be over a football field away from Tom Hebert Road as it goes back. We're glad to put in any type of gated access to prevent free flow of traffic. We'll have security cameras. They have an office. They will have somebody there manned. The idea is to do this in phases, and so initially, depending upon, of course, subject to approval, but depending upon how the development goes in and the time that it takes for it to develop, then of course you'll have a higher presence there. You'll have a higher need for it. They've already done extensive work with the parish engineering on the prior plan, and as a practical matter, the prior plan just wasn't feasible in our current market climate. I think we've got staff recommendations and approval. We've got the design engineer here, so if anybody has any specific questions, we're glad to address any concerns. One of the conditions in the stipulations was screening approval, and we might ask for some relief from that we don't have to do, a full fence and a screening immediately upon, just because it's going to go in phases. But we're certainly willing to work with whatever requests and accommodations that the staff of the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. The board have any questions for Mr. Gale at this time? We have 13 blue cards in opposition to this.
Mr. Chairman, if there is a spokesperson, I would recommend that maybe that spokesperson be given 3 to 4 minutes. If there is no spokesperson, then each person will be limited to about 45 seconds. Well, I guess we can round that to a minute each.
Okay, thank you.
So if you have a spokesperson, maybe call that spokesperson up
Does
first.
the opposition, do y'all have a spokesperson amongst you that may want to come up and state your name and address?
Yes, my name is Brett Wright. I live at 7505 Dana Court. Been to, sir? Brett Wright? You got it. I've been living there maybe 3 years. When I moved in, my water well system cost me $7,700. To add insult to injury, when the mobile home park goes up, the water that will flow from the mobile home park into the neighborhood and onto the next 2 adjacent streets, because there's no way the water doesn't flow to the east. It flows to the south, which means it's going to come across the neighbor's yard into my yard. We don't have the adequate enough draining already. Make it worse, traffic. It is not as bad in the morning, but in the afternoon, it's really bad. And I'll tell you one thing, people speeding up and down the road with kids running loose, there's nothing to keep those kids inside that trailer park, wandering into other people's neighborhoods. When I lived in another mobile home park, the crime rate was really bad. Even when the cameras went up, the lady across the street, her son murdered 2 women. And I was told to keep my mouth shut for fear that the landlord would lose money over rent. Not a good idea. And I'm not in favor of it at all.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? You have questions for me?
Any questions?
The sewage system, which is supposed to be back, which means they'll get the horrible smell and the humming and the running of the motor. If you can hear a humming and running of a motor of a sewage system next to the trailer, can you imagine what it would be like for the rest of the neighbors when the wind blows? Same thing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Before we proceed, out of the other 12, do we have 12 people that's going to want to speak? Or we have another person that's going to be okay, if you would, please state your name. No, we'll let everyone get a chance, but we got to limit it to time.
My name's Cynthia Jeske. I live at 7522 Polly Lane, 70607. When I was reading the article, it said the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area. It is not. I have been in that area since 1997. I moved there because it was agricultural. I could have my horses, I could have my privacy. I didn't have to worry about large numbers of cars or people and any extra dogs that would damage my property or my animals. It is not consistent. Our traffic is already a nightmare. Our ditches are already a nightmare. We are against a large mobile home park. There are 3 mobile home parks within 2 miles. They can take one of those. Leave our properties alone.
Thank you, Ms. Cynthia. John Wood, please.
My name's Rhonda Burke. I live at 7462 Tom A. Bear Road, directly next door to where they want to put 396 mobile homes. I've been there 18 years. That is agricultural land. It was rice fields. It was cattle pastures. The land is extremely low. When they get in there and they're gonna have to fill that property in, they're gonna flood my house, along with everybody else that lives around there. They're gonna flood me. It is a nightmare out there. We lived out there, we moved out there because of what the first lady said. It was peaceful. You know, we didn't wanna live in the city. Now you're gonna bring crime, destruction? We live south of the city. Sex offenders? We already have a passel full of them out there because we live outside the city limits. We have no city water. We have no city sewage. Where is all that gonna come from? I have my own well. My well is over 600 feet deep. Are you gonna draw from my well? We don't need this. I have grandchildren. Where's my grandchildren? They're not gonna be able to go outside and play, and it's a 2-lane street. You have nothing but traffic. Let somebody else speak. I'm totally against this.
Thank
We're
you,
all
Ms.
against this. Please don't do this to us.
Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Mr. Chairman, before the next speaker speaks, we really have to stop with the comments from the audience. Comments must be made from the chair, or whoever the chair recognizes.
Thank you. If you would, ladies and gentlemen, so that we can carry on expediently. As we get finished speaking, if we're going to continue to clap and carry on, I'm going to have to ask people to disperse from the room if we can't be quiet and listen to the speaker so that we can carry on in an expedient manner. I appreciate your cooperation. Yes, sir.
My name is Michael LaRocca. I live at 7321 Blanco Lane. Goche Road's trailer park comes all the way to my corner fence post. I've lived there my whole life. I've watched that trailer park grow and grow and grow. My windows have been shot out of my house by BB guns from kids. All this is gonna do is make my property value plummet. I own the 2 lots at the end of that road. I paid all this money for this land, worked all my life to get this to where I'm at in life. Now it's gonna go away because of a trailer park, and then what y'all gonna do with the drainage? I'm the highest point right there. They're gonna drain on me?
Thank you, Mr. Rocker.
My name is Robert Bischoff. I live at 2777 Queen Street, King Court Subdivision. First of all, I'd like to ask the police bureau a couple of questions before I start. Why y'all only put a little sign like this with little 1-inch letters on a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit highway? Nobody knew that stuff was there. If I wouldn't have put no sign there letting the people know in that neighborhood what they was trying to pull there, nobody would have known. I got over 200 petitions signed, signature on this petition that people just found out about it this weekend. I mean, there should be a bigger sign there. And how long are y'all supposed to run that sign before the meeting?
The sign is a courtesy. The sign is not a requirement
Okay.
to do
But
that.
how long are y'all supposed to have that sign where the public can see it?
It's not a requirement to have it there.
I thought it was 30 days.
Mr.
No.
Chairman, if I
Yes,
may.
sir, I'm sorry.
We're here to make comments about land use.
Please.
We need to make those comments and limit it to the issue at hand.
Thank you very much.
Because
If
it's
you
only
would-
15 days today that sign was there. I got a picture on my phone.
If we would, let's keep comments directly to the petition, the application, I mean. Thank you.
Right now on Gulf Highway, Goche Road, and Tom Abiel Road, you got over 2,000 mobile homes right now. That's a lot. And if you put another around it off the 400 more right there, and each one of them has two vehicles, that's 800 cars.
Okay. I have to call time, Mr. Bischoff. We have to have, we
I'd like
have
to say
to add
one
the
more
next
thing.
one.
Whenever King Court Subdivision meets Tank Farm Road, we get a heavy rain, we got 6 inches of water, 6 to 8 inches of water running over that road. Just the water, all that water from that trailer park gonna drain right back to that road on Corbina. And the ditch stays full all the time in the heavy rain.
Thank you, Mr. Bischoff. I would like to ask all the rest of the speakers. We have heard 5 different comments, and we know that we have appears that there is a water issue there. So, I mean, if we can stay away from the water issues and the traffic issues, because I think it has been well represented that there is issues according to what you see. So if you have some more additional comments, please do.
I'm Nathan Lewis, 7622 Blanco Lane. I'd like to emphasize what the previous gentleman just said about the petitions. I don't know if this body here has the mechanism to recognize that, but I know of at least 2 petitions that I personally have seen circulating in the neighborhood, in the immediate area, and both of the ones that I saw had many signatures on them. Perhaps that's outside of the normal procedures for this body to receive comments from the public, but I hope that you will entertain that, because it's something that these group of neighbors have taken upon themselves and worked pretty hard to put together, and it shows a lot of support in the community for all of the comments that you're hearing here verbally. And I think some of the people probably couldn't all be here today, but they signed those petitions in hopes that you would recognize their opinion. I want to disagree, if I might be so bold, with the idea that this is consistent with the area. This proposed development is almost surrounded, at least to the south especially, with subdivisions. It's a nice neighborhood. We're not asking you to restrict this to $500,000 homes. We're not trying to transform this into some sort of expensive neighborhood. But I don't agree with the idea that a nearly 400 place mobile home park is consistent with the area.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I'm going to have to call time because you have
Okay.
the other speakers behind you.
Okay, very briefly, the gentleman that spoke here, I make note that he's already asking for a relaxation of whatever requirements there are for a fence, and I think that bodes ill for the rest of this process of this development continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Woodley Seymour, 7371 Duke Street, Lake Charles, in the King Grove subdivision. I purchased this little piece of land in 1972.
Excuse me, Mr. Stable, have you filled out a blue card?
Yes, I did. I gave it to the lady right over here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bought this piece of land in 1972 and built a home a couple years later, 3,500 square foot home. This is supposed to be a nice middle-class subdivision, and it has been through the years. Good neighbors, everybody gets along, takes care of their property, and so forth and so on. A few years after I was there, Ben's Trailer Park came in and Tomasi Dirt Pit. The dirt pit was supposed to be just a dirt pit, but it turned out to be a trash lot to bring all your trash in. So they changed what it was initially for. And I think what you're doing with these trailer parks, the Ben Trailer Park came in and the crime increased in our area, in our neighborhood. I myself has been broken into and several of my neighbors through the years. And I think this trailer park is a detriment to a nice middle-class neighborhood.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you for hearing me.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Weldon. Since we covered almost every area, accidents, safety, and all the other stuff. And I just want to say one thing. I read something that if whoever got this trailer park over there, if they honestly think that's going to be a one-family dwelling, I got some land I'd like to sell them south of Holly Beach. That is not going to happen. There's crime over there. The police can't keep up. I'm doing something now. I had never been, I've been out there 18 or 20 years. I got to lock my garage. I get up all during the night, shooting the people doors out. What's going to happen now? This does not make any sense. If they really wanted to do something, sell some 2-acre lots. Because 40 years from now, the lot on the rent's gonna be $1,000. They're making money. Sell some 2-acre lots. Let our little kid do like my neighbor doing. Buy your lot, 2 acres. Yes, she got a manufactured home on it, but her plans, and she's gonna do it, build her a home. This is just a money-making thing, and it don't make no sense. You're stepping on my toes and everybody else on their toes. It just don't make any sense. And I know you're going to tell me to shut up, but I got one other thing to say.
No, I'm not going to tell you to shut up, but I'm going to tell you you have too much
10-second
time.
thing to say. Our police department. And
We're
I'm
not
gonna
here
call
for
his
the
name,
police
Mr. Roy
department,
Jones.
I'm sorry.
Somebody needs to commend him. There was one professional young man. Met him the other day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weldon.
My name is Ken Connor. I live at 7521 Polly Lane in Lake Charles. I'm here in opposition to the trailer park. Pretty much everything I've written down has already been covered, so I'm not going to be redundant here. But in fact, they showed it on the screen. The blacktop is already cracked up pretty bad. When you get equipment going back and forth to build this trailer park, you're going to have some serious problems. I don't know if y'all even considered that. Then the safety factor is the railroad track runs across Tom Bear Road with no signals. In other words, when that traffic ends up, when someone mentioned 800 new cars running back and forth, the problem is whenever something like that, an accident happens, then somebody says we need to do something. Well, think about it before we do it. That way you can prevent people from getting injured or hurt or even killed. So that's about it. And the, well, another option that I thought of was your storm evacuation. When you got 800 cars trying to get out of, on Tom Bear Road, a 2-lane road, and you got a problem with the traffic, everybody being 8 hours turns into 12 hours. So
thank you, Mr.
That's all I
Collins.
got. Thank you.
Appreciate you. The applicant, I'd like to call you back up. You have any comments that you'd like to make?
Before I make any comments, are there any specific questions anybody cares to have anything addressed?
Does any of the board members have any specific questions to be addressed to the applicant?
Kind of start in reverse order. We heard a question about safety with the railroad. As we probably all know, the railroad is owned by the Port of Lake Charles. The speed limit on that railroad is limited to 10 miles an hour. Alcoa is no longer in operation, and right now the city of Lake Charles and Chenal are building a golf course around the sides of that railroad to the north of there. So if there's a safety concern, it's not much of a safety concern. They're putting a recreation area all the way around it. Road surface, as you know, this board approved a laydown yard. CB&I laydown yard is right down the road. And so there's an industrial use about 3 miles from here. And so that's the traffic pattern that's heading down there. They got approval to go down there, and the long and the short of it is this area is developing. And what happened on the west side of the river is now kind of working its way onto the east side, so we're starting to see that. We've been through that on the west side already. Talked about what happened with Ben's Trailer Park in Tomasi's. That's Corbina Road, that's a mile away. That's a different direction. And the market that you're seeing here, and it's consistent with what you have with the other trailer parks, and that's consistent with the staff findings. You've got some consistencies on the other mobile home communities that are in that neighborhood. These are mobile home communities, and we've been here enough. We always hear about drainage and traffic, and we know there's a zero off-site impact. This is land use. We have to get into engineering is the next phase, and the engineering is what you see on the plan. And what they did is, I think it's a pretty clever design, but they built the buffer zone around it. And so they're using their water detention and to address the drainage system as a buffer zone, to move it back away from the road, to move it from the north line. We heard a comment on the sewer system. They've already made arrangements that they've got a specific type of sewer system that'll be used that's going to minimize the impact on the neighbors, because they don't want to rent a trailer next to a noisy, smelly sewer system. But it's a necessary evil because our system hasn't worked its way out there. We don't have a water district. I live out there. We don't have a water district. We don't have a sewer district. And so you have to do this on a mechanical nature. And we have to do that with DHH approval and engineering, as we all know. Anything other specific you care to have addressed?
Not at this time, Mr. Gill. Thank you very much. Does the board have any other comments or questions?
Can I address what Mr. Gale was talking about?
No, sir. Ms. Christie, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please, ma'am.
Mr. Link,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Ms. Galicia,
Yes.
Mr. Navarre.
No.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Armentor.
No.
Ms. Hyatt,
No.
1 for and 6 against.
Motion fails. We'll call for a little recess and let everyone who wants to leave go ahead and leave, please. Take appropriate action on RZ 0718-0086, a request by Mayor Maydell Blaney to rezone from mixed residential R2 to light commercial C1 to allow commercial development at 3924 Old Spanish Trail in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Navarre and seconded by Coach Williams. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located in the Mossville area and encompasses nearly 6 acres of land. Because of the transitioning nature of the area, the applicants would like to sell their land for future commercial use. If you will recall, last year, the police jury authorized a reclassification study in this area but decided not to hold any action due to the number of people opposed to the zoning change on their own land. We have not received any written opposition to this request, and because the proposed zoning is consistent with the development trends in the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that unless modifications are required due to technical or engineering considerations and approved by the director, all uses and improvements must be pursuant to and in strict accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws, statutes, ordinances, codes, resolutions, rules, and regulations, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, that screening, where required, must be provided prior to any final electrical approvals in accordance with Section 2650 of the Parish Code, that a runoff management plan and a traffic impact analysis will be required for all developments unless appropriate waivers are granted by the Division of Engineering, and that no lounges be permitted.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendation? Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Stafford Frank. I stay at 3511 Apple Point Place in Richmond, Texas. And I'd like to express my appreciation for you granting or at least recommending that our request be granted. One thing one of the things that caught my attention, and I just wanted to just have it on record, I had a concern about the traffic impact analysis. I think that might cause undue hardship for us to sell our property, because anything you put in that area right now is going to impact the traffic, because the traffic is already heavy. So I'm not sure you know, how we could get around that. And like I said, I just wanted to express my concerns.
I'd like to call on Ms. Wallace.
If the proposed use to come generates less than 1,000 trips per day, which a convenience store, lay-down yard, things like that would typically not meet that threshold, they'll be able to get the waiver. It's only if there's a large development that would want to come in.
Okay, that's thank you for the clarity.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We have no blue cards in opposition. We have no opposition on our tablet. Does the board have any questions or concerns? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 16. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on July 19th with reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from the July 17th meeting. Laura Gauss Ferry Road, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. Top bid home buyer, Thompson Road, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. Guidry property, Tallow Road, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. Whispering Meadow, Westwood Road, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held on Tuesday, September the 18th in the police jury meeting room. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Could I have a special request?
Sure.
On the last issue, the young lady in the red, will you have her to stand and give us a bow?
The lady in the red, if you would stand and give us a bow. Coach Williams is asking for that.
Thank you. That's my church member, my super.
Okay, Coach. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
No.
Have a motion by
I love it.
Alicia. Do I hear a
I
second?
think that was Mr. Navarre, second.
I have a second by Ms. Hyatt.
She gonna get me.
Meeting adjourned.